All right, in this explainer, we are jumping into a future that feels, well, a little too real. We're talking about the year 2026, where a regional conflict is about to go global in a big, big way. Let's break down how the entire world order could fracture right before our eyes.
So it all starts here. Picture this: coordinated U.S. and Israeli strikes hammer Iran's nuclear and military sites. Now, this isn't just another flare-up you read about in the news. No, this is the spark, the one that ignites a global firestorm and catches pretty much everyone completely by surprise.
And the fallout? Oh, it's immediate, and it is brutal. Iran's response is to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Just like that, a full 20% of the world's daily oil supply, gone, vanished. Prices, of course, they just explode, shooting past $140 a barrel. And that pushes the entire global economy right to the brink of a massive recession.
But here's the thing, this isn't a simple two-sided war. It's way more complicated. Think of it like a geopolitical chess match with 8 major players. And you know what? Every single one of them has a totally different idea of what winning even means. So who really comes out on top from all this chaos?
If you look at this breakdown, you can see these 8 powers almost immediately split into 2 very different camps with totally opposite goals. And this isn't about old friendships or alliances. Nope. It all comes down to a really simple, really brutal calculation. Who's making money from this war continuing and who is getting absolutely crushed by it?
So let's dig into that first group. We'll call them the prolongation bloc. These are the 3 countries whose interests, and you're not going to believe this, are actually served by making this conflict drag on for as long as humanly possible.
For Israel, there is no middle ground. Their objective is absolute. This isn't about some negotiation or containing the problem. Their goal is the permanent total removal of Iran as a regional power and as an existential threat. From their point of view, if the current regime is still standing at the end of this, it's a failure.
Next up, Saudi Arabia. For them, this conflict is a golden opportunity. A broken, fractured Iran means their #1 rival for regional dominance is just gone. So Riyadh doesn't see this as a crisis. They see it as a once-in-a-generation chance to completely redraw the map of the Middle East in their favor.
And then you've got Russia. They're playing a different game, quietly benefiting from all this chaos. You see the sky-high oil prices? They're funding Russia's military somewhere else. The U.S., completely distracted. And the ultimate prize for Moscow was a weakened Iran that after the war has no choice but to become dependent on them. For the Kremlin, every single day this war goes on is a huge strategic win.
So you're probably asking, how can these 3 countries possibly hold out for so long? What's their secret? Well, the answer is simple. They have immunity from the pain. Israel is being bankrolled and armed by the U.S. Saudi Arabia has a pipeline that lets them get their oil to market completely bypassing the Strait of Hormuz. And Russia, they're literally profiting from the high oil prices. In a very real way, they're getting paid to keep this war going.
Now, on the other side of this messy chessboard, you have the Exit Coalition. And look, this is not some grand strategic alliance. It's just a thrown-together group of 5 major powers who are united by one thing and one thing only: the desperate need to survive.
And right in the middle of it, the United States is in a serious bind. The administration did not get elected to fight yet another endless war in the Middle East. They don't need a total victory here. What they need is a fast, honorable exit that they can sell to a very war-weary public back home. They're totally trapped between supporting their ally and facing a massive political backlash.
And their solution? It all comes down to Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan. See, by reactivating it, the U.S. gets a tangible military win. It gets a strategic perch to project power from, all while being able to say, hey, we're exiting the direct fight. It's the perfect off-ramp that actually looks like a power move.
The rest of this coalition is just driven by pure desperation. Pakistan becomes this key broker, trading access to its airspace for critical political backing from the U.S. Iran is only at the table because its economy is seconds from total implosion. And then you've got the world's economic heavyweights. For the EU, China, and India, this isn't abstract. They're staring down the barrel of recession, inflation, and total supply chain collapse. For every single one of them, this war is an existential economic threat.
So let's just lay it all out. This is the core conflict right here. On one side, you have a bloc that is literally getting rewarded financially and strategically for keeping the war going. And on the other, you have a coalition of huge nations where every single day of fighting pushes them closer and closer to economic ruin. That tension, that's what's driving this entire global crisis. So, how in the world does this end? Well, the most likely outcome isn't some clean victory for either side. Instead, what you get is a messy, unsatisfying compromise. You know, the kind of deal that nobody really wants, but at the end of the day, everybody desperately needs.
Okay, so here's what that deal actually looks like. First, the US gets its big win at Bagram. In return, Iran gets an economic lifeline by agreeing to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but in phases. The economic powers, the EU, China, India, they put up the cash for reconstruction to make it all happen. And, this is critical, Russia gets just enough of a piece of the action to keep them from blowing the whole thing up.
And this, right here, this is the reality of our new multipolar world. Israel and Saudi Arabia, they don't get the dissolved Iran they were hoping for. The US gets a deal they can sell, not a total victory. And Iran survives, but it's weaker and it's dependent. But the world gets its oil flowing again. It's not pretty, but it works.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? The single most important thing to get is that this war didn't create a new world order. All it did was rip the mask off the new reality of global power, a reality that's been bubbling under the surface for years. Think about it. The three pillars that have basically defined the world since World War II, unstoppable American military power, the absolute dominance of the US dollar, and this idea of a rules-based international system, this crisis showed that all three of them are fractured. They're not gone, not yet, but they are no longer untouchable.
And what's taking its place? We're seeing a new structure come into focus. It's a tripolar world. You've got a weakened West, you have a consolidating China-Russia axis, and you have this newly assertive global South. All these non-aligned nations that are now demanding a real seat at the table. This is the new chessboard for every crisis to come.
And that brings us to one final, really crucial point. While the whole world is glued to the military conflict, that exit coalition, the one driven by pure survival, they're quietly building new economic and financial networks that completely bypass the old systems. This new architecture, born out of a crisis, is probably going to outlast the war itself. So the real question isn't just who wins the war. It's who is building the framework for the peace that comes after.